Alrighty, so I'm not going to do that, I'm just showing you. I'm going to set it to an empty string, so when I run that, it's just going to give me an empty string. So print name. So you notice I'm printing name every time, but it's giving me different values, because it's printing the value that's inside the variable. So that should clear up variables, and as you use them, you'll get a little more familiar with how they work. Alright, so now I want to ask you for your input. So how do we do that? In Python, you use something called raw input. So what I do is I want to set my name actually equal to not an empty string, but to whatever input you give it. So it's going to be equal to raw input, input, and raw input requires that you give it a like a prompt. So this is so the user knows what you're asking for. So I'm going to say, please enter, or no need to be polite, enter your name. And you notice here I leave a space because Python won't know to make that space for you. And it just makes your code a little more readable, or your program a little more readable. Okay, cool. So it says enter your name. Awesome. I put in Ray. And then when I go to print name, because I just set name in that input, it's Ray. Awesome. So now I want it to print it on its own. I can just put this print command here inside of my code. I can say, oh, here's another concept, which is combining a string with a variable. So I would say hello, comma, space, and then I would say name. I think that's how it works in Python. We'll find out real quick. Alright, so awesome. So now I printed hello plus whatever variable was inside name, which is pretty cool. Now you'll notice we can make we can do other things as well. We can set values. So I'm going to go over the different kinds of variables that exist. In Python, like I said, it handles this stuff for you. It handles what happens in the back end. In most languages, you actually have to declare what type of variable you're working with. In Python, it knows what kind you're working with, but you still have to remember it when you're using that variable, not in declaring it. So for example, if I set name equal to 9, okay, actually let me set it equal to 9 as a string, because it's inside the quotation marks, it's a string. So if I run this, okay, I declare the variable. So if I try to do name plus name, it gives me 99, which is not really 18, which is what 9 plus 9 is. That's because it's just adding two strings together. It's not the value of the number. But if I remove these quotation marks, then Python will save it as a number, an integer, 9. So if I run the script again, I do name plus name, 18. Now I get the proper value because Python is converting that without you telling it to. It knows that 9 is a number, not a string. So it actually represents a value of 9. However, we run into some interesting things here. You actually have to tell the difference between an integer and a float. The difference would be an integer is a whole number, and a float is something that has a decimal point value, or floating point value. So if I run this again, so if I divide name by 2, it gives me 4, which we know is not correct. 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. And that is because it's an integer. So we have two ways to go about this. One is implicit casting, which means Python handles it for you. And the way you would do that is name divided by 2.0. So by adding that 0.0, it's automatically going to know to convert it to a floating point value. So now 4.5. If we did name divided by 2.00, same thing. So this is only, and remember, this is a Python specific thing. Most languages aren't quite as lenient with this kind of thing. You have to do what's called an explicit cast. So you have to tell the program that you want to use a float, otherwise it will give you an error. Python is pretty lenient, it's easy to type, so it gives you this implicit casting. Another way you could do this is by declaring it when you declare the number to 9.0, which would give you a name divided by 2. Oops. Again, implicit casting here working against us in that it's converting back to an integer 2.0. And there you go. What else could we do? Oh, actually, no, that's not right. That's because I didn't run it again. Name divided by 2 gives us 4.5. Alright, so that's one way to do it. Another way is by actually casting it manually. So by casting, I mean actually telling it what value or what kind of data type it is, what kind of variable you're using. So for example, if I go ahead and print